What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Corey Spivey here, along with Taylor Moore. We're here with another episode of the Ballistic Report. We thank you always for supporting us and watching and keeping up with all the content that we bring on sports. Today, we're going to start off in some very good news coming out of Nashville, Tennessee. Eddie George was named the official head coach at Tennessee State, your alma mater. As we think about him taking over this position, even though he's got no prior coaching experience, when you first heard this news, what were your initial thoughts and what do you think his impact will be on Tennessee State University football?
Man, first off, I was surprised, man, when I seen it because as you just said, he doesn't have any coaching experience. I know prior to him taking on this position, or other than that, so he has his own management group, and also he's acted, man, in different plays, man. So he's been doing everything but football. It kind of seems like, that we kind of see on TV and whatnot. But other than that, just his face alone is what TSU needed. I know the last Rod Reed, man. So he was there since 2009, and I know during my 4 years there, we didn't have a winning record. I don't think we did, and sometimes it was kind of tough to watch them play, so maybe just to bring in a new face, just to energize the people is something that they need too. But I will say for the recruits as well, you have to bring, okay, so as a recruit visiting, they should be looking more at than just the football aspect of it, so that's what TSU as a whole need to play in, because I know TSU is supposed to be getting over $500 million in funding. They need to use that money to help out these art buildings, these health science buildings, who may not be up to par, so they can fix those up. So as these students are performing well on the football field, they can have a good off the field experience in the classroom and just also on campus alone. So I would say that it's good that they have him as the face of the football team. And I know with them having, football experience from the NFL, he can definitely have those words of encouragement to the new student athletes coming in, and that alone can provide a lot of inspiration for those who probably 1 or 2 star recruits, maybe 3 star recruits, just to kind of give them that hope that, hey, I can play at the highest level if I put my mind to it, work hard. So as a whole, as a face of the team, is perfect. Now TSU just has to do their part and just make sure that they can help support him the right way, and also provide the recruits with the right tools to succeed on and off the field. What you think?
Yeah, I think, just off his presence, he's going to have a good impact. He's got a good character to himself. He's got the charisma, the humor, the hard work, the consistency. He's very professional in everything that he does. And, he competed at the highest level here in Tennessee. So I think, just his presence alone from, what he has done in Tennessee, with the Titans and with, outside of the Titans organization, everything that he's seemed to put his hands on has, kind of turned to gold. He's been in so many things. And so I think that he looks at this, and he said this in his press conference. I think the first 2 times that they asked him about it, he turned it down, and then his wife finally kind of was like, yo, why not do this? And so he finally came around. And so I think, when he puts his mind to this thing, I think it's really going to, begin to evolve. I think the players, the organization, the city of Nashville, which is, a up and coming city, I think, everything about this is going to be positive. But I do agree with you, as far as, it being an HBCU, a small school that's had some prominence in the past, but, as of late, they haven't really been a big football presence. I think the difficult part football-wise is going to be getting those recruits. He's going to be able to get those, like you said, those 1, 2, 3-star recruits. And a 3-star recruit is going to have to be looked at as, this is really a win. But those 4 and 5-star recruits is going to be kind of hard to lure them in or kind of steal them from these Power 5, schools that have much more to offer. And so I think that's going to be his biggest, uphill battle. But I think right off the bat, he's going to be able to impact this organization and these players from the mentality, from the influence that he's going to be able to give them, from the wisdom, from the, big brother, father type mentality or figured that he's going to be to a lot of these students, a lot of these players. And something else that he said, as he was nearing the end of his press conferences, is that he wanted to be able to build strong men on and off the field. And I think, who better to do that than Eddie George? The few times that I have come in contact with him have been, really good encounters. He's very polite. He's not condescending. He's very welcoming. So I think he's going to be able to carry that over to the football program.
Let me ask you something real quick. All right, so we know in Nashville and also Brentwood, there are a lot of these private high schools who have a lot of 4 or 5 star recruits who end up going to the UTKs and the Vanderbilts, because it's those big time SEC schools.
Yeah.
All right, so you think that it's possible for us to maybe steal maybe like a 4 or 5 star recruit of some of these big schools?
I think you may be able to get one every now and again. You think about, his name's escaping me now, Hersey Miller, from the basketball perspective. I think you may be able to get one of those every now and again, somebody that may be from the Black community that, hey, I really want to support, my boy Eddie. So I'm going to, kind of influence my kid to try to go there. But, locally, I think it's going to be difficult to compete with Power 5 schools outside of Tennessee. Because you look at MTSU, you look at Vanderbilt, you look at the University of Tennessee, they're dumpster fires for football right now. So I think if you're looking for a great 4 or 5 star recruit that you're looking to get to TSU that was looking to stay in state, then maybe, because Tennessee State, although they weren't very good either, they're gonna have this new presence. But I don't know, man. What do you think?
One thing for sure, if you're a 4 or 5 star recruit, 9 times out of 10, and if you come into TSU, you're probably going to be starting anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So I would say just to have that immediate impact for a 4 or 5 star recruitment. So something like that may be intriguing for a high school prospect coming along, and also for those transfer students who may have to leave those big D1 schools. Maybe due to disciplinary actions or either grades, hey, they can see TSU as an opportunity. Hey, I can play for a former NFL running back who was really good during his time. Why not take a chance at it? So I would say that if anything, like you said, they can probably snag maybe 1 or 2, but one part of where they may hit gold at is probably bringing those transfer students too.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I believe just today or maybe in the next few days, I think they're passing this NCAA, rule where they're able to have at least one transfer. And maybe, some different things that, are circumstantial. But I think they do have that 1 year or that one opportunity to transfer. So like you said, man, I didn't think about that. That can be something that he can really use to his advantage. And especially the playing time, because there's not going to be a lot of competition for these 4 and 5 star recruits. So yeah, they definitely have to play that to mind. And you think about Deion Sanders, the guy that kind of got this whole wave started. He brought in his two sons, and he's been able to influence them. But I wonder how many other people are thinking like him. Like I want to go build this program up, because a lot of these guys are not thinking I want to build the program up. These guys are thinking in 4 years, my career is on the line. You know what I'm saying? So there's some of them are thinking I don't have time to go for 4 years to help Eddie George out, and then I don't get anything out of it. So that is going to be something he's going to have to struggle with. But football wise, do you see this being a quick turnaround?
Man, I would say with football, probably not, man, because it requires more players to be on the same page. With basketball, if you can get a solid starting lineup, man, are you gonna have a winning record? But when it comes to football, if your offensive line is trash, but you have some of the best wide receivers, you're still in trouble because you have to rush to get the ball out of the pocket if you're the quarterback. So I would say that it won't be a quick turnaround, but as we kind of talked about earlier, bringing in those transfer students can help speed up the process, I would think. And also, whoever Eddie George brings in on his coaching staff is gonna be a big difference, man. Because I seen something as well talking about bringing in Jeff Fisher. Now listen, I don't know if someone was just throwing it out there just for the heck of it, but I seen someone that said Jeff Fisher.
Yeah.
And we know towards the latter years of Jeff Fisher's coaching career, he had a lot of losing records, but at the same time, just his experience alone can be beneficial for college students. But I would say coaching staff and also just bringing in the right people too as well, who can all play on the same page.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a struggle for him, but I look at Deion's team, like they got off to a hot start. They won their first three, and now I think they've lost their last three. So even with him being as good as he is, and the team that they have being as decent as they are, there's still going to be those teams that are just flat out better than you. So I'm not expecting a quick turnaround, and I'm hoping that everybody's not thinking he's coming to be like this savior of Tennessee State football. I think he can be long term, but I wouldn't expect like a 1, 2, or even a 3-year season turnaround. Like it's going to take some time for him to really get this thing underwater. But we started off with Eddie, we started off with Deion. They're just the first two. But how do you think Eddie and Deion are going to impact football for HBCUs moving forward?
Man, number one, my key word is just awareness, just raising awareness that, hey, there are some great players who go to these lower level schools and still perform well at the highest level. I wasn't born I wasn't born like in the early, 60s, 70s or whatever, but we know from TSU, one name that come to mind, Ed Too Tall Jones. He went to the NFL, had a great career from TSU. We know Shannon Sharp. He went to Savannah State University, HBCU, and he won a couple of rings. So so I would say, back in the day, hey, they were churning out a lot of NFL players, but we know that as the years went on, it kind of dealt with the funding and whatnot. So that's why a lot of the players left to go to better opportunities. And to a certain extent, you can't blame them because, hey, if you're able to get more to play the same game, it's kind of no-brainer to take it. But I would say overall, just the exposure alone is going to make people understand that, hey, there are more conferences besides the ACC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, and all the other major D1 conferences too as well. And I know, speaking of Deion Sanders, most of his games have all been on ESPN3, I think, or whatever.
I think some of them even aired on ESPN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say, just that alone is definitely good for people to see from all ages, all races. I mean, just to understand that, hey, it's more to football than just these major conferences too as well. So that's my key word there. And hopefully with that, we can see a lot of games that are HBCUs versus some of these Power 5 conferences, just to kind of see if there could possibly be an upset or whatnot. I know the game that you went to with your dad was a TSU and Vanderbilt game, and I was working the game on that field, and TSU was hanging with him the whole time, and
they beat him. They beat him.
They
beat him, but we're not gonna get too far into that. Yeah, they beat him though.
Yeah. So I would say that, hey, depending on the team and the matchup, the HBCU can definitely give a big conference team a run for their money. And my thing is, most people like seeing it upset anyway. With me personally, I'm not a big fan of Alabama, but I respect them because they always win. But sometimes I get tired of seeing the same team win all the time too. So it would be good to kind of see a team to kind of shake them up a little bit, just kind of keep them on their P's and Q's. So that's how I kind of see it.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think if Eddie George is at the helm, at TSU when they play Vanderbilt, I don't think it goes down the way it does. But that's a different story for a different day. We can bring it back. But I'm kind of along those same lines. I think that they're bringing awareness that is well needed to kind of bring these programs back to prominence. And I think that they're just two of the first dominoes that are going to fall, because I think it started with Deion and it kind of woke, not only guys like, Mickey Allen and TSU up to say, hey, we can go find us a Dion. I think more of these schools are going to wake up and start saying, maybe we can go get this guy or this guy that maybe has some ties to us. And I think these dominoes are going to start to fall. And I think that it's good. I hope that it happens because a lot of these Black athletes at these HBCUs, they are just as talented, if not as more talented as some of the guys in the Power 5 schools. So I think given a chance to be able to play, at a higher level and be able to play against some more stronger competition, I think that they, like you said, there could be these potential upsets. So I'm hoping that these dominoes continue to fall. But before we transition to our next topic, Ramon Foster was on 104.5 The Zone, I think maybe when this news first came out. And he offered an interesting perspective that I want to get again before we transition. How much of this do you think, from Dion and from Eddie is, I want to go back and help the HBCUs? And how much of it is, I couldn't get a better job, so this was a great start?
Man, that's a tough one, man, because, so I wouldn't want to talk about that character or whatnot,
Right.
But I genuinely think that their intentions were to go to these lower schools, go to these HBCUs to help bring them back to light again. That's me. Now we know obviously with Eddie George, he didn't have any coaching experience, but I would say that if he wanted to go back to the alma mater, Ohio State, and say, hey, I want to be the assistant running back coach or whatever, they would have made a spot for him, just off his name alone. So I would say that if they really wanted to start off at a big level conference, based on their name alone and what they did in the NFL, they could easily go anywhere they want to. And someone will make a position for them. So that's why I would say that their intentions are genuine because of that. But that's a good question though, but because but at least with Deion Sanders, he was in Texas, man, with this high school football team, and they won 2 or 3 state championships, man. They were rolling through people. So I understand him because he actually had the experience. Now, I said with Eddie George, just for him to kind of step into place and take a position. Am I mad at him? No. And do I think he'll do a good job? Yes. But like I said, if they wanted to go elsewhere, they could have. So I mean, just with everything that's going on, I feel like they probably feel like that it was more needed more than anything. So I feel like that it was more of a need than a want, to answer your question.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a little bit of both. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. And I say it's a little bit of both, more so leaning towards Eddie's side. As you kind of pointed out, there wasn't any, previous coaching experience. And so that's why I think his was a lot more genuine, because him turning it down the first 2 times, like he even, was saying like, are y'all sure y'all want me? Like, are you what you asking me for? That was the words that he used. So I think it does tend to lean more towards, I can do this, as he said, and I think I can help a lot of people that need the help. So I'm with you. I tend to believe that it's more on the side of, I want to go back and do a good deed, but I also do believe that they are going to use this as a stepping stone, into greater, possibilities and opportunities within the coaching world. But I mean, I guess we'll just have to see. I know that that classic between Dion and Eddie, that's going to be a good one. So hopefully they open that thing up and we can go check it out. So as we stick, with football, but we're going to transition into the NFL. Yesterday, or was it today, one of the two, there was this move that there were rumors that it was going to happen, and it finally came through today. Jadeveon Clowney, who was in Tennessee last year, I believe he played 8 games, and then, he had injury problems. He's now been shipped off, or he's signed, I should say, in Cleveland. But how much of a difference do you think he will make on the Browns going into the next season?
I think it's one of those situations that he was in with the Texans when they had J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was able to play really well as he was complimentary to J.J. Watt. So with him having Myles Garrett and him not being the main focal point on that defensive line, and also from the outside, just trying to attack that quarterback, he should play well if he stays healthy. Now we know with Tennessee, he signed late and he was really out of shape, coming in. So he kind of had to catch up to where everyone else was. So when he finally, got the shape, I guess that's when he got hurt and he was done for the season. So hopefully with him having a full off season to prepare, learn the playbook, get acclimated with the staff and his teammates, he should perform much better than what he did with the Titans. But overall, I just want to say he's definitely getting to the bag because he robbed us for some money. And if he doesn't,
13 mil.
he robbed us for some money, man. And with this deal, it's about 9 or 10 million, you said, I think.
Yeah, I think it's with the incentives, it can get up to 10.
Yeah. So if you think about it, man, it's some people contracts that are 4-year, $4.5 million. He's getting straight up $10 million of one season alone. So he's definitely collecting his checks and getting ready for his post career. It seems like, but overall, if he stays healthy, have a full off season, take care of his body, and he's playing alongside Myles Garrett, man, it's no reason why he shouldn't have at least 7 to 8 sacks. Hopefully, what you think?
Man, I was with you to the end, and let me tell you why. The issue is not his ability, and you actually, before I even get to that, you think about Jadeveon Clowney, man. He's for the most part, if we could just be honest, in a vacuum, he's been a letdown post draft day.
Yeah,
he really has. He definitely was a letdown for the Tennessee Titans. He didn't register a single sack, not one.
Yeah.
Not one. He got close a couple of times. He only played half the season, and it was like almost a waste of like $13 million. Like what did we have to show for it? So, but here's the thing, though. Okay, back to your point. You talked about the 8 sacks. He's got the potential, which is why he's been a letdown.
Yeah.
He's got the explosiveness. Injuries have robbed him of a lot of his athleticism and his success. But I think that is the issue. Like when we saw him healthy, and I guess, we can't even really say healthy because we don't know what kind of lagging injuries he had. But when he's been on the field, he hasn't been very productive. He's got the potential to get 7, 8 plus sacks. But when he's been there, he hasn't done that. How do you not register a single sack in 8 games as athletic as you are? I just, and then he gets to Cleveland, and I believe there was some rumors of some of the stuff that he was saying, oh, y'all won more games than we did. The Browns won one more game than we did.
Yeah.
So come on, man, don't do that. And how much did you contribute to Tennessee winning the games that you did? When you were on the field, what did you have to show? So I don't like the way that he's handling if these things are true. And then he's talking about this is the first time I've got somebody across from me that's as dominant as I can. It's gonna let me get to the corner. Come on, bro. Let's not do that. But
Cool. But I will say one thing that's really saving him though is the fact that teams know that he has potential to be great. So that's why teams keep giving him a chance because that's why teams are like, okay, listen. If he has to get his mind right and play the way he needs to be, he can be up there with the Myles Garrett potentially, not all the way to where he's at now, but at least something close to it if he puts his mind together, man. So that's why I'm thinking teams keep taking a risk on it because it's what if he just gets his self together and he can actually be a benefit to the team.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I kind of went on this rant, on the tail end of your comment, but my overall perspective, it was a great move. It was a great move because you never know, is this going to be the year he gets healthy? Is this going to be the year he acts right? And I think, looking at what Cleveland has, bringing in Kevin Stefanski as that final screw, Baker Mayfield coming along, they got all the receivers, they got the running back, they got the defense, everything has seemed to come together. They were right there. And so I think adding a piece like him is kind of the old phrase, the needle on top of the haystack. But in this, analogy, it's for the good, for the better, because I think that him as the needle on the haystack pushes them further into Super Bowl contention. Like, especially if he can just be healthy. Like, I mean, he doesn't even have to register 10 sacks. He doesn't have to register if he can just get you 2 or 3, or if he can at least be a factor to pushing him out of the pocket more into Myles Garrett's hands. Like, even him just doing something as little as that, which is why I think, Cleveland picking him up was a great move. I don't necessarily think I would have liked to seen him in Tennessee. I don't know about you again, but I think Cleveland, with what they have and as close as they were last year, I think that was a great pickup for them. I mean, would you have liked to see him back in Tennessee again?
No, personally, I wouldn't, man, because I didn't see the drive, man. But at the same time, like I kind of said earlier, man, maybe if he would have signed earlier and had a full and really just had a longer offseason to work out with us, maybe that would have helped out somewhat. But at the end of the day, he came in out of shape and trying to work his way back up, and then you get hurt. So it's a recipe for disaster. So
yeah, definitely. I'm right there with you. You brought up offseason, wishing he had a longer one there, but offseason to today and yesterday kind of have been up in the air. And so there were a couple of teams that completely canceled OTAs. Like, yo, we're not doing it. This is not the right time. Like, as you hear these news and the way people are beginning to look at it, it seems it's becoming less and less important. Should the offseason be reconstructed by the players in the NFL?
Man, that's a good question. I think it need to be reconstructed, but I know for sure, that of course the rookies, and the still like the players who've been in the league probably like 2 or 3 years, they need to be in it just to still get acclimated to being in the NFL. But I would say just to lessen the restriction for those who are veterans too as well. So that's how I would kind of go about it.
Mm-hmm.
But then also you got to think about those playoff teams who play all the way to the end, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Kansas City Chiefs. So their offseason is already shortened because they're playing all the way up until the end of the year. So, to the end of the season. So,
yeah,
so that's another factor as well. And then my last fact I want to point out is that, some players know how to take care of their bodies. Some players, they have poor diets, and that makes a difference too as well. I know Alvin Kamara, he was talking with Shannon Sharp. So he was saying that, hey, I feel good. So he was talking about his diet and how he changed his diet to make sure that he can maintain his health so he can play as long as possible.
Right.
So, so that's something that he's doing within himself individually. Now the team didn't tell Alvin Kamara, hey, we need you to change your diet so you can be our running back for the next 10 years. That's something that he wanted to do for himself. So that's another factor too, because some players, hey, they may just want to take their vacation, travel, and be with their family because they know on the weekends and and during the season they're constantly practicing, they're constantly playing. So for those who have a family, I understand that having that vacation, but at the end of the day, you have a job too that you have to make sure you keep your body up all throughout the season too as well. But I would change it, but some restrictions need to stay the same, especially for those rookie to up to maybe 3 or 4 year players, so they're still getting acclimated. And then for the veteran players, you can kind of give them a little leniency for that, just so they can work their way back into it. Because some players, as I've kind of seen on a few podcasts, so they say that, hey, all I need is a few good runs and practices and I'm good to go.
Right.
So that's some veterans saying that, but yeah, that's how I kind of see it. What you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that there's 2 hemispheres, like in OTAs, and just like you were saying, like there's the one hemisphere that includes your rookies, your first, second, third year players that still need to get used to the NFL playbook, teams, how things are run. I think that that's very essential for them. But then you've got like your vets, Ryan Clark was talking about earlier, like he takes care of his body. He still works out. He knows the plays. He knows how everything runs. And when it's time to play, when it's time to step on the field for mini camp and the preseason, whatever the case may be, he was ready. And so I think that there are two worlds. So I think that there's need to be some reconstruction, even though these things have been claimed to be voluntary, they haven't been treated as such. So I think if there's anything that's going to be reconstructed, let's go ahead and let's make it voluntary. Like, and on top of that, the couple of $100, maybe the $1,000 they're going to get per week to these veteran players, man, that's just chump change when it's in exchange for spending time with my wife, my kids, my friends, and just relaxing. So I think that there's going to be some reconstruction. I think they're probably going to add that into the collective bargaining agreement. But I think the issue has been, as more and more time has gone on, it seemed like the offseason has been more and more overrated. And I think it really got exposed, OTAs, that is, this last year in COVID, because it was pretty much done away with. And you have things like these analytical guys that are looking at these bodily injuries, time missed off the field, all went down. They still finished the season, but the injuries went down. So I think the guys that are looking from the safety analytical perspective are saying, wait a minute, we might want to start looking at this thing, right? And so they've already shaved off 2 games in the preseason. But so I think we are headed towards seeing this thing be done away with or completely reconstructed, man. But it may be for the better.
I would say also, man, like those rookie players, and also those undrafted players who are trying to fight for a team, man, they need as much off-season activity, as many preseason games as possible, man, because we already know the veteran players, hey, once they sign, man, they know that if they just do their job, they're going to be back on the roster. Now, for those undrafted free agents and those rookie players, man, listen, they trying to show them that, hey, you need to keep me on the team. Don't release me.
Right.
Yes,
definitely, man. We got the draft coming up 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot of that going to have to be getting sped up soon. As we transition to our last point, in the NBA, there was some news coming out of Brooklyn. LaMarcus Aldridge abruptly retired today. How do you feel this is going to affect the Nets moving forward?
Man, my thing is, as long as James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving are healthy, they're fine because they can shoot you out the gym. I hate to see that news about LaMarcus Aldridge, but other than that, he had a few decent games, and he was recently added to the team, so he still wasn't, all the way into the system what they had in place anyway. And then along with that, James Harden has been hurt, KD has been hurt, so that rotation has been all over the place. So I would say, as far as defense and rebounding, of course it'll be missed. So that means that DeAndre Jordan have to step up. Means Blake Griffin may have to play a little bit more in the minutes, but man, as long as the 3 main players are there and healthy and on that court, then they're gonna have a chance to win no matter what. But the only the only reason why his departure is probably gonna hurt him is mainly just on the defensive side. But that's about it for me. What you think?
I agree, but it's I also disagree, and let me explain why. I think this impacts them significantly, because they lost a key P in their weakness. You talked about the rebound and the defense. That's the whole reason they got guys like Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. He was already there, but they go and get a LaMarcus Aldridge. They're contending for a Drummond before he goes to Los Angeles. It was because that was the one area the big 3 lacked in. And so I think even though LaMarcus Aldridge wasn't a stud, he wasn't Rudy Gobert, he wasn't on that level. But I think that their resistance of Joel Embiid just took a major hit, because he was a guy, although he wasn't going to give you 30, 40 points, and a bunch of steals and stuff like that. But defensively, I think he was the best guy fit to defend Joel Embiid. And so I think you lost that guy. Blake Griffin, he's got a little better, but I don't think he has enough to go up and beat. And I think, Ben Simmons was talking about, ahead of the game, man, we're not really worried about them. We worried about Los Angeles. And I think the reason his mentality was like that, even before Aldridge leaves, is because, man, what are y'all going to do with Joel Embiid? Like, yeah, you got the scores, but all of these guys have struggled in the playoffs, and now you just put them on one team with a first-year coach, and they're struggling, even though they were trending upwards defensively. I think that may decline now that he's gone. So I think that their big issue is rebounding and defense, which isn't a problem if these three guys can shoot you out of the gym like they can. But when you run up against a 76ers team who is still my favorite in the East, I think that you're going to have issues, because what are you going to do with Joel Embiid? If he can get to the line as easy as he can put up numbers and throw his body around the way that he can, they're going to give you some serious issues.
No, I definitely agree on that. But I see a point, man. But but this is me, man, because before they even signed them, they were scoring 120, 130 points a game, and they were pulling out. And we know the games were always close, man, because the defense was so bad. Man. But that's why I would say that just the fact that when that playoff time come, that's when most teams, that's when they figure out more plays to stop those single players. And the fact that you have three superstars on the team, one person's gonna be open, and if they're open, man, you leave KD open, it's a wrap, man. He just had a game, a few games, but he had a game where he didn't miss any shots. So I would say that I see your point defensively, man, but they can't guard all three people at the same time.
Well, they may not have to. That's my thing. James has been struggling. Durant has been struggling. I don't know what's going on with Kyrie. Like, I mean, he just shows up whenever he wants to. So when he's on the floor, you can't do anything with him. But is he going to be there? Are they going to be ready to play together? When James is there, he's been arguably the best point guard in the league, and we know what KD is. But here's the thing. Those games you were talking about, they were winning. That was one game. Now you got to play one team for 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know, man. I don't think LaMarcus Aldridge knocks them out of, finals contention or Eastern Conference Finals contention. Mm-hmm. But I think when you're facing Joel Embiid for 4 to 7 games, you may can scheme around them for one game. Yeah, we got you. We outscored you. But can you do it for 4 games out of 7? That's my concern.
That's true.
And to your point, man, if those 3 can come back, they can gel, they can stay healthy and have their mind right, they'll mess around and sweep the 76ers. But I picked the 76ers because the chances of that happening in my eyes are slim.
Mm-hmm.
But I may be wrong. I don't know, man. I'll ask you this before we close out, because we talked about the East. What is your thoughts on the Lakers right now? Just initial thoughts going into the end of the season, man.
Man, honestly, I'm trying not to look too much at the playoff seeding, because as long as they're in the playoffs and they have a healthy LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they have a shot at that title. But one thing they have to be careful of is that play-in position, man, because we know slots 7 through 10, I believe, they had to go through that playoff situation, and that's just more games you got to play throughout the playoffs that, that builds up over time. But AD's not coming back for another 2 weeks. They said LeBron James not coming back till like the end of April, maybe the beginning of May. So right now it seems as though the Lakers are winning one game, they'll lose one game. They'll win one game, lose one game. And at that point, you could possibly maintain your seed, man. But if you have teams like Portland, right behind you have teams like the Dallas Mavericks are right there, and then last they got the Memphis Grizzlies, man. They're trying to fight for a spot too. You have to go on a string of games where you're winning 2 or 3 straight, maybe 4 straight, man. Because going 500 until AD and LeBron James get back, man, you could very well be in that play-in position, and no team really wants to be in that position. But hopefully Kuzma step up. Hopefully Drummond can have a couple big games where they can go on those string of wins for right now. But as long as LeBron James, AD healthy, and they get that playoff spot, the West is in trouble.
Oh, yeah. Definitely, because Drummond, he just he's shaky in his first game, but I don't know. I can't really judge him yet because he didn't come to be the centerpiece of this team. He came to be a complementary piece, to AD and LeBron and Schroeder. So, I'm not too hard on him right now, but there's been a lot of talk about LeBron. He's saying he's just kind of coasting, getting rest. I think he is too. I think he probably could have came back last week or this week and played, but I don't think he should. Get your rest. All you need to do is get in the tournament. You get in the tournament, like you said, it's going to be some issues because nobody wants to see the king.
Hey, Kawhi Leonard resting.
You right.
Kawhi Leonard resting. Hey,
yeah.
And it's the same thing. And see, that's another problem too, man, because my thing is, I know James Harden is hurt, but how hurt is he?
Yeah. That could be a point too.
Man, because I don't want to say that a player is faking an injury, but it's like, hey, they know that this playoff time is coming up, and we know with James Harden with the Rockets, where it seemed like he was gassed on the floor because he was playing the entire game. So maybe he might be resting just a little tad too.
Yeah, and they did have the quickest turnaround in NBA history, man. But I think the Lakers, like you said, they can get back healthy, get rested up, stay out of that play-in situation. Yeah. I think they'll be just fine. But if LeBron is not healthy, and if AD does not come back better than he left, they may be in trouble. Man, this season has went by quick. Seems like, hey, look, we're gonna be having to do a show sometime soon. Talking about the NBA Finals, man. Like it's coming around quick. Coming around quick, man. But whenever that time does come, we'll be right here at Ballistic Report. This has been Corey Spivey. This has been Taylor Moore signing off until next time.